But it was a time not long ago, and I mean not long ago, when this man was ready to commit suicide. We had him on suicide watch.
Jump off a roof.
He was ready to murder Stevie McBride, burn his house down, do all kind of hate crimes. Fortunately, thanks to the endless effort of the Kajeski-Ertnowski stunt repair team, we're back in business.
That's it.
We may even get to fly this today, except it's raining. Got to put the motor in, the pipe,
That's it.
get all the zip ties and everything.
Buff it out and it's over.
And so once, what it tells you, Mike, is there's always hope.
Oh yeah.
There's always hope.
Don't ever give up.
Don't ever quit, pal. Now it's a lonesome life when you're repairing and buffing and everything out of you. Mike's been relegated to the garage. He's being punished by Karen because he opened M600 in the house. Karen said you could come in the house later if you want. Now this is Butch. This is one of our outdoor friends. And Butch, you notice he's eating the berries off of the bushes? Hey Butch, you're eating all the berries. Watch him. Hey, we ready to fly this guy? What do you got to do? Put the wheels back on?
The wheels.
Oh, we got to tape that hinge line, the wheels.
Take the hinge off.
And Mike did something today that's unforgivable. What did he leave home?
Huh? My handle. The lines.
Oh man, I know the feeling.
The handle, the lines.
You remember Estella went to a contest and he forgot the plane? Oh no, he went to Vietnam. No, he went to Brodax or something and forgot the plane. Only in America. Yeah, we're hoping, the reason we want to get this done is because we want to get a test flight on it. This plane needed a trim tab originally. We don't know if we need the trim tab still. And we want to make sure, because we've basically replaced the wing from here out, we don't know if it's, who knows? It may be better, it may be worse. I'd be betting it's worse. Anyway, finish what you got to do. We'll see. It looks like we got some air here for the next hour or two.
Well.
We'll see. Funny byproduct of this is I've been making some RC videos that if any of the subscribers are interested in these RC videos, I'd be glad to share them, of course. But I just went down to the local hobby shop here about a month ago, and we put up a little display with a couple dozen of these videos, and he's out of stock already. So it looks like we may even be getting more and more involved in the world. See, I'd really like to get involved in the world of RC jets. That would be my first thing. And I'd like to have somebody else buy me the jet and the motor and give me free lessons. You know what? Don't hold your breath. Anyway, we're going to try to get to the field before it rains. Due to rain today. Now, from looking at the flags, I don't know if we're going to accomplish Mission Impossible today, but what we want to do, Mike, as the plane all put back together, we want to dedicate one of the fly-in sessions to getting it back in trim, getting it dialed back in, and I know this is going to be, well, assuming everything's okay, he's going to be a happy puppy. Look at all these jets. Anyway, we've renamed our new fly-in site Korea because most of the people in the town are Korean and they've come to watch us every day. We're like little mini superstars down here. Trust me when I tell you, not many things are more rewarding than the day you actually get to fly a plane that's been written off the charts and you thought it'd never fly again, and you went home and sobbed and cried, and like we all do when they crash. And here it is. This is that magic day. Even though it's a terrible day, it looks like it's going to, actually this is going to rain any minute now. We're going to try to get a flight on it, or a couple of flights, and see if our repair has resulted in needing a retrim or anything that needs to be retrimmed. And that's the objective of coming out here on a day that normally we wouldn't come out here when it's crappy like this. A standing ovation from the crowd of one. Oh, it feels so good to be an airplane that's been fixed. I'm so happy. The biggest concern we had was, were we going to need the same trim tab, a smaller trim tab, or a bigger one? And we're going back and forth in between flights. Because before you can really do anything significant, I want to get the wing level. And once we get the wing level, and of course we'll Just make sure that actually the weight of the plane didn't change, and we used actually the same tip weight box even. So it should be pretty idiot proof. We hope we get it before it starts raining. We're predicting rain for all day. Look at this, we're sneaking in.
It's coming.
Yeah, I know. Probably tomorrow. Just hope the weekend.
I told you, and it was raining there.
Ah, it's coming. All right, let's get this job done. Let's get this retrim done here, Mr. Cardinal. We still don't know if the tank shims is the same either, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike always thinks this is funny as he tries to give me a haircut as he goes by. Not funny, Mike. Not funny, Mike.
Looks real good right now. Even on a cloudy day, that candy apple paint really shines up nice. Boy, we got to figure some way of milking that in the future. One click leaner, it'll be fine. Well, one of the things, of course, that stays in the back of your mind during a test flight like this is if the wind's going to break in flight. Of course, we're hoping Mike's not even thinking about that right now. But it lived to fight. Boy, there was a time not long ago we thought we'd never see this puppy again. It'd be history. And now it's stunt history. Now see, it's breaking harder on outsides than insides. Listen to the motor, you can hear the run. Probably still needs a tank shim. Yep. Breaking harder on outsides by some. That's usually about a 1/16 of an inch. An estimated guess, a guesstimated guess. I hear doors slamming. We must have other people from the Four Strokers Anonymous Club arriving here. Or we're being attacked by Koreans, one or the other. Now this is one happy puppy. He is one happy puppy. Peeps is happy, I'm happy. We're all going to celebrate by going to the diner and having something fattening. The calories don't count on a day that you rebuild a new plane. Rebuild an old plane. Look at that face. Tell me he's not happy. All right, Uncle Mikey. Peeps is proud of you. what we did. We've made notations of which way the tank has to be shimmed. Let's just go through a flight. You always want to do it more than one flight, because what happens if the wing is up or down, it in essence changes the tank shim just a bit. It can tilt the tank in or out depending on what the shim is relative to the center line of the plane. So we're going to try to look at it. Good brake. Now we can't really tell. Mike's not getting too tough right now. But that brake is about right. Now we want to heat the same brake on the inside loops as on the outside loops. Now, I'm not really concerned with the lap times. What I'm concerned with always is, especially on the horizontal 8, that the brake is equal. And you can change that brake a lot of times by changing the rabe rudder. Now, a lot of people don't know that. By changing the rabe rudder and it points the nose out, it'll make it brake harder on outsides. It looks like it's close. Actually, it's probably not off a 16th. Maybe it's off a 32nd. We need to make up some shims and clean brake inside. Okay. And this is where video comes in. Even if you make your own video, put it on a tripod. You can listen to the motor. You can time lapse. Clean brake. This looks like it's pretty close. Now what it is, because we've been adjusting the trim tab, we might be just zeroing it in without ever touching the tank shim. But again, another way of doing it, if you want it to brake a little harder on outsides, go in 2 clicks on the rabe rudder. And the opposite, of course, is true. Go in less if you want it to brake the other way. A lot of people are not fully aware of that. Now you can also change it with tip weight. I know that doesn't sound possible, but what happens when you point the nose away from the circle, you're making the motor go further from the tank and it makes the brake harder. That's why a lot of people don't realize. They get a plane shim just right, they change the prop and the tip weight, all of a sudden it needs a tank shim, and they can't figure out why. Well, I don't want to talk during the maneuvers. I think he's got it. Keep in mind, Mike is a guy that's, I don't think he's ever entered a contest yet. This is only his second plane. We made a Magnum that was, I don't even know what that is. We don't count profiles. The Magnum was kind of like built like the kit shows, and it really wasn't. It was a very uncompetitive plane. This is really his first attempt at a real competition plane. And he's getting a little cowardly on this. I don't blame him either. He's got the motor and the pipe from my 91 Cardinal in here. Not the pipe, we made a replica pipe. I meant the header. Again, it's just really good. I think we could consider this test session a total success. And I'm sure Mike is just going to be happy as a pumpkin. We get back to Z-Troning it up tomorrow or over the weekend, whenever we can. Get some Z-Tron flights in. Have some fun with the throttle. Mike, you're in the bank, baby. Peeps love you. Well, look at that face. Now, another thing I always like to do after a repair, the trim of the plane has probably changed in some way. And what we're doing, we flew it with a carbon fiber back plate and then with no spinner at all, because I want to make sure that I've got the plane, that it's rotating for Mike. I flew it 2 or 3 times, and it seemed like, for me, I'd want it rotating a little harder, but for Mike, it may be that he's going to over-control it. So what we're looking for in this flight is over-control. Now really, if you're doing this yourself, you probably want to do, a whole day of flying before you make a decision. We have 3 choices: carbon fiber back plate, Or we can take a spinner and just Dremel it all up inside, or we can look around. Let's just make an example for an 1 3/4 Vico spinner, something that would be a spinner but be as light as possible. But there's no point in doing that whole exercise and spending a whole day or in whatever, time, energy, money, and then you find out the plane's now not nose heavy enough, it's tail heavy. So when I flew the plane, it really had a really wild corner. But again, I hit it harder than most people do, and what I really want to do is dial it into Mike. And the problem is it's getting dark. It's getting dark and getting ready to rain, so we're trying to make a decision so we don't spend the whole day tomorrow making a lightweight spinner for nothing. He may like it better the way it originally was. Yeah, see, he's overturning it now. Now, of course, it goes without saying, you could now make the handle smaller if you really wanted to. Or you could make the handle bigger and go back to using the heavy spinner. But there's always a point at which the plane feels right to a person. It doesn't feel nose heavy or tail heavy, and that's a point. Each person is different. Paul Walker may fly a plane and a little more tail heavy than most people. Some people fly more nose heavy. And what the trick is to tailor the plane to rotate, turn, and stop to suit the pilot. And that's one of the advantages I seem to have, maybe I do, maybe I don't, is a lot of people don't build a new plane each year. So what happens to them is they work on one plane for 4, 5, 8, 10 years, and they get it really fine-tuned. Well, because I build a new plane every year, it is a tremendous handicap, too. Don't think it's an advantage, because I'm always fighting something new. I don't have, you know, almost never fly last year's plane where it's all trimmed out and everything. I always start at ground zero. So I'm usually pretty good at looking at something and figuring out which way to go. And the only reason I am is because I've handicapped myself by building new planes every year. You notice most of the top flyers don't build a new plane every year. They fly the old plane because they have thousands of trim flights and they never have to go back to square one. It's like never having to hit the reset button. But on the other hand, this gives me a small advantage when it comes time to do a quick trim and figure out very quickly what's wrong. See, now that's one place the plane got better, is on the top of the hourglass. But anyway, the thing I'm trying to emphasize is it's got to suit Mike. Mike has never even entered a contest yet, so it's hard to say, is he, you know, even what skill level class he would be entering. He's so new to the hobby, but because he's really dedicated and really intense about trying to make his visions come true, he's had some pretty good success. Most people, by the time they fly this good, they've been flying advanced or intermediate for 10 years. So anyway, now we got to see how Mike feels, and we have all three of those choices sitting right over in the toolbox. And so it came to be in the world of model aviation that Mike Kajeski, now a competent repair person. Okay, now here's the part you're not going to like, Mike. The bill. We're going for pizza with your credit card. I hope you're not maxed out or anything. Yeah, that worked out well.
That's into compression, right?
No.
Into compression, power is off.
You can feel it.
Yeah, not many people use 4 strokes. This is like an experimental thing we're working with.
It sounds different, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, totally different. Yeah, yeah. Sounds like a Honda.
When did you bring this, Wendy?
86. Well, we flew as long as we could until it's, well, it is almost dark. What a great day. Mike is definitely a happy camper. And we are off to have the biggest pepperoni pie. Believe me, I feel indigestion already. This is what's good. The celebration begins. Hey, we're at Ron's Hobby Shop. I come all the way down here to get a picture of George Venturini's model. And you know what? It's not here. But there is something cool here. Check it out.
What's that for? All right, thank you.
Just a wing.
Oh, it's flying off already.
Okay, what's happening?
Okay.
We weren't repairing it after all.
It was not done. I was checking inside.
All the way here to see George's model,
Oh, you don't know where it's at, right?
and it's not here.
Firewall.
So disappointed.
And then, I know.
Anyway, this is Ron. He's been helping us with some of the electronics, and we got the servo driver at last.
That's it.
Free at
All I
last.
can do.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Here we go. Did you? Where, did we sell that Kyosho?
Yeah, you showed it to me the other day.
I think we sold it.
Oh, you did? Oh, all right. Well, I don't want to buy one now, but in case this
Ooh,
doesn't work.
he's coming around, he's coming around.
I always get it for you. Takes about 4 days.
How are they to build? Are they
Kinda simple. Kinda simple.
similar to the Great Plains?
Exactly. Same construction technique.
And the same uses, I think it uses 2-wing servos.
Yes, it does. That particular one it does.
So you can do a little better. All right, well, if you get it, you know what? I'll call you in a week or so. If you get another one in, I just want to take a look at the plans. See what we're talking about in terms of building. The other one's going to be
We
All right.
also have these in colors, blue, purple.
Take care, Ron.
Get one.
So long, Ken, thank you. We also have
Hey,
these.
Ken.
It's 8080, how nice. This is what I like. I may be getting one of these for the E-Tron. This thing's really off on the fly. I don't know if you've ever seen one fly. Well, you may stay tuned to Windy videos. Maybe one of our new things. Woody right there. It's our local RC club. Okay, today from Bill Young, and this is just another part we're trying to work on, because again, now that we know the E-Tron will work, this would be nice to try. I'm just trying to picture. This would be the throttle, of course. Bill, by the way, he's in Pampa in Flagstaff, Arizona. I've spent several very interesting conversations with him. And what I did, I sent him one of my handles, because one of the things that would need to happen on a handle like this is you'd need to be able to move the cable, of course. That might or might not be a problem, the way the linkages and the batteries or whatever goes up there. But again, we certainly don't want to not be able to use some of the little things that he's developed. We're trying to come up with a hybrid system here where it'll fit as many people as much at a time as possible and be something people can really do, not some pipe dream for 1 or 2 people. But anyway, anybody interested in Bill Young's handle, it's Bill Young Designs, and he's in Pampa, Flagstaff, Arizona. This is probably something that I don't know until I try it. I wouldn't know if this is going to be inappropriate. But I'll tell you, when you're trying to control a throttle with this hand and aim the E-Tron, the first thing we need to do, the next step, and we're going to see Sergio Saturday maybe, is make some kind of thing that we can put this on our belt so that you're just using the throttle control. This is the servo driver I got from Ron down at the hobby shop. The only problem is he didn't have the right batteries for it. He's ordered the batteries. But in the meantime, I'm thinking, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, I'm even wondering how, well, you know what, the more I look at it, the more I think, if this were mounted on your belt, this would be no problem at all. Another way is that I've heard guys do this is they make a little Velcro strap, let's see, maybe a strap for the palm of your hand, that you could work this like, again, this is the part of it that I'm not sure of. Maybe you need the strap this way, so you're doing this. But having this remote, I can see already that one of the big obstacles to this whole thing is going to be the light part of the E-Tron, if that's a system we're going to use, needs to be mounted permanently to your body, your hat, your shoulder. And this part on this system, this is the Fred Cronwet system, this would need to be, in my book anyway, need to be mounted either through this trigger, which we don't know until we try it, or somehow remotely this way. Again, this is what, it's that same old thing we always talk about. We don't go to the moon because it's easy, we're going to the moon because it's hard. I think we're going to the moon all right. Anyway, they do give you directions with this. This is from Custom Electronics. More on this later, because we only have a limited amount of time yet to experiment with this, and then we have to kind of make a commitment. The final thing, and I don't have one sitting here, but I spoke to Dubjet yesterday, and Dubjet is going to be getting me or hopefully coming up with an idea for a carburetor, and Dubjet is a carburetor genius, I think is the right word. He's going to come up with some kind of deal we can use to try this on a jet. Because obviously not everybody's going to want to run a 4-stroke if anybody likes this. They're going to want to try it on a 2-stroke. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we knew ahead of time if it's going to be appropriate, not appropriate? And since the electronics for the E-Tron and the battery and the servo add less than 2 ounces to the plane, you can even probably put it in a nobler sized plane if you wanted to. Just some thoughts. Now this is really nice. This is from Al Rabe. Al had checked out a bunch of the videos that I sent him, and he's added some good ideas to our program here. But he's added something that he doesn't even know he added. Is by him building all those cool models years ago, it was very inspirational. It makes me want to, at some point in the future, build a plane with dihedral and a very scale body and things. And that may or may not be coming with the advent of things that are changing right now. But the Typhoon is probably going to be a lot more like the Miss Ashley model. By the way, this is one of the books, and Al, I want to thank you for the book. One of the books I do not have in my collection, Spitfire at War. By the way, I love having books. We need to find a book that's the Typhoon at War. It's right on the first page. They have a picture of Joe Adamusco. I remember when I made the mold for this cockpit, the bulletproof glass, and I really didn't understand how complex this whole canopy mold was going to be. It brings back a lot of memories. And one of the things another memory it brings back is when Joe and I first sat in a diner, and that was about 5 years ago, and envisioned the Spitfire project. And not having any idea where that project was going, I really have to relate that as one of the happiest times in my modeling life, working with Joe. He's still a joy to hang out with. And we may even get to see his model retrofitted with the Sato soon. He's got that done. And most of the same things that were appealing about the Spitfire are appealing about the Typhoon, as I love English warbirds. I don't know what there is appealing about them. But like the Mustang and like some of the planes from other countries, the Spitfire, I don't know. It even to this day, it has a special place in my little love of modeling. This picture here gives you some idea of what that bulletproof glass was on the front of the canopy for. The thing I remember about the Spitfire most of all is every step of the way, we didn't know at that time. We weren't able to do any real molding. We didn't know if we were even going to be able to mold these little exhaust stacks. But it's evolved to where we do canopies, cowlings, stacks, spinners. There's virtually a wing, well, not wings, but full fuselages. And that's how these things evolve. One skill builds onto another. And one of the things, looking at this, one of the things I really remember when Joe and I were doing this, we made these radiators for the bottom of the Spitfires, and actually we probably could have used them, but the planes really did fly better without the radiators, and I thought to myself, oh geez, part of this project is a failure, because every other part of the plane, to me, was a total success. 4 concourse wins in a row, and the only part I didn't wind up being happy with was the radiators on the original Spitfire. We never made them for the models after that, but I still have those radiators sitting in a box over in the shelf, and I keep thinking the only part of a 4-year project that I wasn't happy with. The things Joe has talked about many times is doing a clip wing version. A lot of people don't even know there's a clip wing version that was very prolific. Now, even if you had this idea in your mind, you wanted to do a Spitfire, this is with the desert air filter. How cool would it be if you had a Sato sitting in that desert air filter? That would hide the servo, the Sato 72, the 4-stroke, the jet, whatever would be in there. These are the things we're kind of happy that we have all this information. Gives us a lot of choices. And like the Typhoon, this would be just what the doctor ordered for a big 4-cycle stunner. And the whole thing, I could just picture it. See, this kind of looks like a P-40 here, but there were quite a few Spits made with that big chin scoop. I remember on a Seafire coming up with the little blisters and the cannons. Brings back a lot of memories just looking over this book. And of course the Spitfire evolved into the Seafire with the tail hook and the sliding canopy, a la Keith Trossel. That was quite a project too. We even converted some of the Spitfires into dive bombers toward the end of the war. It's interesting to me when you read these books just how many things they did in such a short time, and how the Spitfire is just a little view into some of the other things that happened during World War II, where things had to happen in a hurry. Development was very quick. Some of the late model Spits that I loved with the 5-bladed rotals, Griffin powered. Just something about that. I don't know, there's just something that really appeals to me as a modeler. I think it's interesting. It's almost like a little microcosm of the Spitfire. We don't know where this whole thing is going to wind up with the Typhoon, but we know it had its roots in the Spitfire. And even to this day, I still dream about making another Spitfire. Even more scale with dihedral, kind of an Al Rabe thing, but I know it's just such an undertaking. And I realize for me, there's only so much life left. There isn't an unlimited amount of life left. And I was in England, and I stood right where these Spitfires are. When I was in England, I saw how reverently the British cherish their Spitfires and the memories they have and how they feel about them. I really feel like it even added another dimension to the love of modeling I have. And the Spitfire, now that it's evolving into the Typhoon. I just keep thinking about adding models to that Spitfire bedroom. But the thing is always, you own a house, you own a car, but there's also one other thing you own. Every one of us own. And it's something a lot of people don't even know they own, and that is the amount of time you have left in your life and how you spend it. Whether you spend it doing things that are enjoyable and productive, not enjoyable, not productive. I have just found that the life I've lived with model aviation as the core, it's been very rewarding, and most of all the friends I've made along the way, it's really been great. A special thanks to Al. And Al also, by the way, I think this is really special. This is the kind of things that make you feel like you've spent a life in modeling, and it really has paid off in good relationships, good friendships. He sent me a copy of everything he's ever written in model aviation, and I mean, this is an extensive, it's probably how thick is that, 1/4 of an inch? But I have these in my file now, so for any of the other people that might have missed some of Al's writing. He also did a real special thing that I've done in the last 2 weeks. I invited Don Dixon to come up, spend a couple days in the Spitfire bedroom, and take the yellow plane with his motor home. Now, he's done us a great favor in providing us with all these 4-cycle engines, and I feel like a lot of them. I'd like to repay that favor somehow. And that's one way I really hope I can. But I look at some of the things Al's written, and I wonder if somewhere down the road, all my adventures. See, you never know where one adventure is going to lead to another adventure. If it's eventually going to lead to a model that has full dihedral. Al, by the way, right now is in the process of restoring the Sea Fury, and he said he'd keep us abreast, give us the heads up on maybe some of the things we could use for crash repairs. Anyway, if anybody would like to borrow any or all of this, all you need to do is say, hey, Wendy, let me borrow it. Everybody that knows me knows these things have no value unless you share them. And I really want to thank Al for that book. And that invisible thing that, again, I don't know how to even define it, but when you see somebody else doing an incredibly complex, well-executed model, it's inspiring. And I often wonder, and it's not a criticism, but I often wonder, Sea Fury, if it had a throttle and a 94-stroke, I just wonder. And swinging a 16-inch prop, I just wonder. Short nose moment, big cowl. You know, my final thought of the day before I go to sleep here. Al, if you have a spare Sea Fury you want me to retrofit, now, he's invited me to come down and fly to Bearcat with him. I got a better idea. Al, you come up here with one of these spare Sea Furies, and I'll put that 91 Max I have in it, and we'll go flying. Anyway, it's been great. Imagine you could hide the E-Tron right in the little light, right in the middle of the red. My mind, I'm losing it. Time to go to bed. Time to go to sleep. Now, we're definitely not going to go flying today. We are in the middle of like a nor'easter. But Bobby came up and we're going to try to visit Sergio. And I want to see how the Max 70 fit in here. Oh, that's terrible. Boy, that fit right in there, huh? Holy, that's beautiful.
Preserve the cow.
Did you have to make a new needle valve hole?
Nothing.
Nothing, okay.
And there's your...
Did you manage to get the tank up 5/8?
Yep, tank is up. And
that'll be perfect.
And there's your throttle.
Okay, and you got, let's see how you made that throttle. Look at this guy.
I just whipped that up last night quickly, and that hooks directly to the carburetor.
Oh my God, Banjock, eat your heart out. And put it on the ground. I want to see if you got enough ground clearance
I think I do.
For a 14-inch prop.
This is a 13 on it, but take a look.
Ah, boy, that's close.
Just have to jump it off.
Yeah, jump it off or something.
We got to look at the driveway.
Well, can you get some bigger wheels?
Yeah, but look here.
I'd hate to break a prop. Yeah, jump it off. That's the only thing you can do is jump it.
The insulation didn't come out bad.
Beautiful.
I didn't want to cob it. And now you got a nice view of the four-stroke. Check it out from the front.
Is going to be introduced to line tension here. It's a shame we can't get some flying in today. Boy, that fit right. Now that fit not a whole lot different than the Enya, right? I mean, you didn't have to butcher anything up.
No, all I had to do is I had to remember there was a section of the cow here I had to cut out.
Yeah. But we don't care about that.
It's just a lot of engine.
Go get a 14-inch prop and put that prop straight up and down. Yeah, I'm really concerned about breaking prop because we've done it so many times.
Yeah.
On tradition.
These props don't grow on trees.
No, and they're hard to get. Noel Drindak thankfully gave us 6 of them, or 7. I don't know how many he sent me. And I've been thinking about paying him for them, too.
What for?
No, put it right on the spinner center line, you know.
Yeah, but see, that's...
Yeah, you're getting close, though.
Yeah, but we'll jump it off.
Yeah. Also, with those zingers, you can cut some of the meat away.
True.
Yeah. Now, the Max doesn't spit out a lot of stuff out of the breather. But the Sato breathes. It blows stuff out of there all the time. I have a vent running right back to by the flaps of the plane.
Yeah, Joe Adamusco is doing something like that, too.
Yeah, I told him to do that.
And what I do is after the flight, I just stick my squirt oiler in there. Give it a couple and
spin it through. Or if you do it by hand, just flip it a few times.
That's all I do. Here's how I was talking about on the rev-ups, or the zingers, what I like to do. You see how I shape and split that?
Yeah, well, see, you can do that. What Noel Drindak does, okay, you did the same thing, is he lays a rev up on top of a zinger and then cuts that. Obviously, don't get too carried away.
This is just wasted material because it helps in your balance.
The nice thing about zinger, there's a lot of meat here. If you want to deep pitch them or up pitch them,
I didn't notice how much.
Oh, yeah,
You can really see.
But that zinger really acts like an engine brake, boy.
Does it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one thing, I was looking at some of these BY&O props. This darn piece here, which is drag, this
Yeah.
comes halfway out the prop.
It's heavy.
There's a
You can
blunt.
remove that. Yeah, you
have
can
to.
remove that.
But with what that prop costs, you shouldn't
Yeah.
have to do that.
Nah, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. That's definitely. I wish we could get flying in today. It's killing me that we don't have any weather.
I want you to try with this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well,
be hurting for line tension.
no,
Well, look at something just for testing 4-stroke engines.
little ones.
Yeah, well, I've had up to a 50 on it. And what I did is I whipped this up 3 nights.
And this is what, the Sato?
This is a Sato 40 that I got at
Okay.
a flea market. I've had a Sato 30, 2 Enya 46s on it, 2 Sato 40s, and a Sato 50. It's just a test bed, nothing more, long tail. And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
flies
yeah.
beautifully. And this is
Fits
Sato.
right in there nice, that's for sure.
I did some on this one.
You just
as
wire it
a-
wide open?
Yeah. Notice I did some hogging away to remove some metal.
yeah.
Some metal that I don't think is important
Yeah.
to the structure. This is a real old one.
Well, you know what they do? They make these engines so when they crash, they're strong.
Exactly.
I'll guarantee you, if you weren't concerned about, like, you could pull the whole engine apart and thin all this out with a Dremel tool.
I already went through it. This
You already went
part
through?
is already very thin. This was
Does this
solid metal.
support anything, or is
Yeah,
this?
this is the camshaft. You notice
Okay.
that's the axis of the cam gear.
Okay.
And if that
I know you could. I could make little carbon fiber valve covers,
You
but how
could,
much
yeah.
do they weigh?
Well,
Come on, a
this
gram or
is
something?
I made the exhaust pipe out of aluminum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That looks kind of neat, and this one
Yeah.
flies very, very well.
That's great.
This is a very old, and you see these universal engine mounts? I machine
Yeah.
these up with slots on them.
Right.
Now this says upper and S. This is the Sato system.
Oh, okay. I see what you
I
did.
have
Yeah.
one set for Sato, one for Enya,
Right.
one for OS Max.
Right,
And
right.
you can adjust it, like for example the Sato 30,
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
bring them in a little bit. But that way I can put any Sato from a 30 up to a 56, any Enya 4-stroke from a 35 to a 53, and
Yeah.
any OS up to the 52.
Ooh, that is nice. Now that carburetor faces backward too.
Yes, on the older Satos it does.
Ah,
And the interesting thing, if you look here,
I never saw one that
the
faced back.
Sato is on center line with the engine.
Oh
What
yeah.
they do is they angle the intake down. So
Okay.
you notice, because the OS, if you remember, you got to raise a tank. You notice these holes right here.
Yeah.
Those are for the OS because you run a tank
Well,
there.
if you look at a 72, you can loosen this bracket
Yeah.
and you can rotate it off to the side.
Oh, you can?
Oh yeah.
I haven't looked at the Sato.
Oh yeah. I just need to make another bracket.
Okay. And
Which is not a big deal.
yeah, I already machined up a bracket for.
But I have
Banjo.
I have a feeling that a different carburetor could fit right on there.
Oh, yeah.
Because these are just pressed in.
Exactly.
It's a press-in fit.
It's an O-ring.
Yeah, it's a press fit, sure. As long as you make the bracket
Yeah.
strong enough, it's no...
Oh, yeah.
Actually, you could mount the carburetor like a Ducati. That's like the Laser has. I would love to see if that would change. In other words, this is done so they can run like in RC. This is
Yeah.
This
I
would be...
wonder what the shorter intake track
I don't
is gonna
know.
do, though.
I
That's
don't
where you
know.
have to talk to a real,
Yeah. No, what you do is my way. You try it. If it doesn't work,
yeah.
you don't tell anybody you
like
tried
the
it.
pilot.
Yeah.
That's from the movie The
Yeah, he
Mask.
looks a lot like Banjock.
Only a bigger smile.
Well, you got more stuff in this car. This is ridiculous.
It was
Now, whose
designed-
plane is
It
this?
was designed by Ed Luck back in 1947. It was featured in a magazine. It's old-time legal.
Old-time legal.
Yeah. And it's powered by an Anderson Spitfire 65 on spark ignition.
I think Banjock sold that motor I loaned him. I have a feeling he's eating.
No, he likes that motor.
He loves it, huh? But I never see him write me a little letter and say, "Hey, Wendy, I love you."
I covered it with silk. It's built just like the good old days. The
Yeah.
only difference is the original one had a slightly higher turtle deck.
Yeah.
We have to take it downstairs. I got to show you. It does some tricks that you'll get a kick out.
Oh, cool. Well, I got to open up the door, but I got to put the bird away. Last time you were here, was the bird running wild?
I didn't see the bird last time.
Oh, you're gonna see him now.
Good. Can't wait.
So Zambelli never saw the bird, huh? He never saw the bird. Well, we'll straighten that little fact of life out. Never saw the bird, huh? We'll see if Zambelli has fleas in his hair or fleas in his ears or what. Fleas in his wristwatch. Anyway, we are definitely not going to get any flying today, but we're going to have a nice social afternoon and hopefully get to, Well, socializing is a good part of the hobby too. I hope you don't mind sharing all these little adventures with us.
Thinking about new stuff for an old-time stunt, you know, something totally different. So he says, why don't you build a screwball? I said, what the heck's a screwball? Well, he sent me the plans. It was designed in the around 47 by a fellow by the name of Ed Luck. It was published and everything. He sent me the article.
Looks like Ed Luck is still in the copy.
Yeah, that's
Old Ed.
I found a doll, and I painted the bloodshot eyes, and I put the screw through her head, see?
Ah!
And she's got a little Philly Flyer. Got to have a Philly Flyer.
Philly Flyer hat, yeah, of course.
But I figured while I'm building the airplane, and said, why be normal? Being normal is not.
That would never be part of your program. Well, mine either.
So what I did, I decided, but besides having the airplane, and it is spark ignition. We're not pulling any punches. This is just like the old days. No transistors.
The real McCoy, yeah,
real
not
McCoy.
these sissy things with transistors.
No
and stuff.
transistors, nothing, no
These
solid
things that would
state.
make having an ignition engine
Exactly.
easy
It
or
has
fun.
points. It has points.
And a
it has
Vico spin. Oh my God!
That's a real Vico spinner too.
And a real. This is definitely a real top flight
And
prop.
yes, yeah. If you notice, it has a top on it. There's a price tag on it, 25 cents.
Oh, Banjock, I'd probably love
The
that.
wheels are inflatable.
Yeah.
These wheels are also, a fellow found them in, but look at this. There's a little hole so you can inflate them with a football needle. See that?
Oh wow.
And I have inflated it just enough so they don't go flat.
Wow.
And the plane is built, it's all Randolph's dope and silk. There's nothing, no cheating on it. It's built like the old days.
Well, see, I don't understand the part. Some guys make an old-time plane or whatever, and then they cheat. They lengthen the tail and.
Yeah, and put a Schnurl engine.
Nah, you got it. If you're gonna do it, man, it's like a '55 Chevy. You got to have a Chevy engine. You can't have a modern thing that isn't
Now,
maintenance.
this is the hood latch.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
And there's your ignition system, your batteries, your condenser. The coil is underneath, and the tank is underneath here.
Okay.
And I have soft plumbing into the tank. But as you can see, there's the bottom of the crankcase of the engine. It's just a regular
Absolutely
box stock
cool.
engine. There's my ground
I
wire.
bet Larry Cunningham would like this.
But if you notice inside, there's some gadgets. See the gadgets in there? Now here's how it does its tricks. See this is my primary latch there. I released the primary latch, and this is the secondary latch. By releasing that secondary latch, you allow a cam to drop out, and now
Is that wild? That is definitely
one
wild.
latch, the
You take the
entire,
wings off.
that's right, the entire
Okay.
aircraft comes apart, and you notice the control system stays in here.
Yeah.
Automatically disengages.
Now, this was part of the original
No,
plan?
no, this
or
is
you
my own
invent. This is a Zamboni invention?
This is 100%. And also, when you release that catch in there, there's a linkage that goes back to the tail of the airplane. You can come onto the tail of the airplane, and now this releases also.
Oh, and it takes the whole tail comes off. Is that
And
wild?
there's another link that goes forward that disengages the landing gear.
And the pilot's head comes off.
Everything but the. So now
That is
you have a
wild.
Total.
Now you can put it in a box and take it to VSC.
Exactly.
All right. All right. I think that is cool as can be.
I spent quite a bit of time designing and engineering this because.
Well, you're an engineer. See, you're cheating because you're a professional.
Well, this
See, you have to do things that you're not professional at, or it's
Okay.
not modeling.
And as you can see, that everything disengages automatically. There's the link for the
Yeah.
and the push rod stays inside the airplane.
Right,
Ball
right.
joints for alignment.
That is wild.
And then the wing reinforcing rods just slip out. And when the wings go together, you can actually see there's two rectangular slots
Yeah.
overlap when it
Okay.
goes together. And then there's a cam that, as I'll push the cam forward, the cam goes between those rectangular slots and rotates. That pulls the two wing halves inward,
Right.
locks them together.
That is absolutely cool as a cucumber.
And, thank you. And
I didn't know you were this smart. I wish I knew you were this smart years ago.
This is just
I would have made you buy lunch more often.
This is a hobby. Since the wing goes in here, there's a sealant around here. It's just that RC foam tape.
Okay, just to seal oil out, keep
Exactly.
it from getting greasy.
Also, I have a scoop here. This scoop, besides being the latch, is also functional. air gets driven in here, maintains positive pressure inside the aircraft just to discourage any oil from seeping into
Oh,
the
okay,
flight.
yeah.
In here, that's where the coil is. It's just a small removable access plate. So if I have to service the coil,
See, I could have used you when I was trying to come up with these Miss Ashley take-apart features.
oh, I would have loved to do that.
Oh, it made me crazy,
See, I
believe
don't
me.
like hardware and bolts and nuts and stuff like that on take apart because it's just something to lose. Now here, this is where we get into the real end of old time and classic. I had to make a little adapter that bolts onto the front of the engine, and as you can see, there's nothing. There's your points.
Yeah, yeah.
Advanced retard lever is right there.
Well, you better tell Banjock, you know, I gave him that engine so I could be flying an ignition engine.
Oh, we're going to do something with that.
I want to see that thing wearing out.
They don't wear out. They,
I know.
just the rings go. Here's your main ignition switch, and as you can see, the engine, there's nothing magic about the way the thing goes together. It's all old-time technology.
That is definitely cool.
This pocket here is for the landing gear, so when the landing gear goes in,
Right, I see, right.
then there's a pin that comes forward and locks it in.
I heard there was a Russian plane that they had one bolt in the middle of the plane, and you took that one bolt out, and the wings came off, and
It was a,
all I could think about is I hope this guy tightens this one bolt
Yeah.
for all the time he has it.
well, if you notice in this one, as I showed before, I've got a primary and a secondary catch.
Right.
Even if the primary catch fails,
Like the hood on your car kind of
Exactly.
thing, yeah.
primary catch fails, even if that
Yeah.
plane were to disintegrate, I still have a secondary catch here.
That's neat with the hinges in the front. I like this, the hinge technology here.
Oh, this? Yeah,
Now
that's...
see, a real engineer would have figured out how to make these things so they didn't need the slots. You would have like C-shaped.
Give me a,
Come on, Bobby. Bobby, you're a real engineer.
I'm a tinkerer more than...
Ah!
But I got modern batteries. I got bunny batteries. I tested a whole
You
bunch of different
sissy.
batteries. I tested a whole bunch of different batteries, and the Ever-Ready bunny batteries are definitely the best.
They're definitely the best.
They outlast those. Carbon fiber.
Now Bobby's going through my samples of carbon fiber and all of these little things that we've got over the years, because we're going to be obviously be using this material real soon.
You bet.
And anything you think you can use, you know what I made out of it? I made for the Sato. I made a throttle linkage out of carbon fiber.
Okay.
If you look at the Sato, the linkage is carbon
I
fiber.
haven't seen inside that one yet.
Another thing we're looking at, these are the prototypes, and we haven't gone to the next level because we're waiting for the 4x8 sheets of honeycomb to come. But feel the rigidity of that flap.
Let's see it. That's unbelievable.
A little bit stronger than ball. I don't know if it'll be lighter, but I don't care. And the elevators, all we need to do is go out to the garage and sand them, and these will be done.
This weighs nothing, and look how much you've got to trim off.
Oh, yeah.
Look how
Yeah.
much is going to be trimmed off.
Yeah.
Because basically your flap is really only that 2-inch wide
Yeah.
section.
And I did a Mylar release. I did a Mylar release on that, not a, nothing high
Fred here
tech.
is trying to get my
He's going to
attention.
do a Mylar release. Hey,
Yeah.
you want to eat a carbon fiber flap?
He's trying to peck my...
Yeah, get away from that
my
carbon
neck.
fiber. Anyway, only thing we have is the little samples of honeycomb. But we're going to be, one of the projects we're going to do right away is make a set of flaps for Miss Ashley, because it has, I think I could benefit from having stiffer flaps in elevators.
You've got removable...
Yeah, everything comes apart.
Okay, so-
Not like yours, it just comes, like Paul Walker's plane, it comes apart.
No, but so you just pull out this pin here.
Yeah, the pin detaches and then that's the end of it.
How do you feel about using a constant cord flap as opposed to taper flaps?
It seemed like this plane flew well. I mean, the only guy that didn't like it was Brett Buck. He was the only one that had something negative to say about it. But hey, we'll make a set of taper flaps
Yeah, I
and
was
see.
just going to say, you have the luxury of
Yeah.
being able to do that.
Well, the luxury is I can make a flap a day with once I get the Nomex. But he likes you. You got a mole or a flea? One flea. I guarantee you when you go home,
This is a mole.
there won't be a flea on your body.
Please, I don't have a mole.
We're just doing a layout here on the Typhoon plans that Elliot, these are the rough plans, just to see, and this is the biggest of the engines, this is a 90.
And look at
Now-
the room you have.
Now look at the room you have to make the cowl. Now the other part, Warren Walker I'm going to get a Sato exhaust, he's going to make me one with much more of a bend, and hopefully get that whole thing, or most of it, inside the cowl and just have a little exhaust coming out, or down the bottom maybe, I don't know.
Well, one of the
We'll get Warren to work on that for
One of the
us.
things I was playing with was a small box. Okay, I would weld a nipple into the box.
Okay.
The thing would screw on, but the box would kind of wrap around and back.
Exactly, exactly.
And have two exhausts, because I was going to do
Yep.
that for my Cherokee.
One thing I did on a test bench, I took all kinds of things and just put them on the back of this. Cans,
Yeah.
tune pipes, backwards, forwards, mufflers, tiger mufflers. The exhaust doesn't seem critical at all. There's no tuning going on there.
Exactly.
There's
Even
nothing
on one of
being
our-
tuned.
On one of our flights, the exhaust pipe fell off.
Yeah, Danny doesn't even run the exhaust pipe
That was
off
my
the plane.
airplane. He was flying it,
Oh,
the
okay.
exhaust pipe fell off, and it got quieter.
I have a feeling you could make almost like a Super Tiger muffler if you wanted to put a tube right on here. The trick is you got to be able to turn it on
But
and off.
the ideal thing, now somebody makes flex pipe for these too.
I got it. I got it.
And what you can do is you can silver brace some flex pipe on and bring it around anywhere you want.
Right, put it inside the body.
The ideal thing would be if you have a box, let the exhaust gases expand a little bit before they hit the atmosphere.
Right.
As they expand, they dissipate energy. And
The other problem is the fuel tank is not a problem, but the Z-Tron then, maybe I have to mount the Z-Tron in the back of the plane or the
But you have this
whatever.
This whole
Yeah,
area here,
or put the Z-Tron on top or
and this
something.
won't get blanked out.
Yep, and you can put the servo any place. The servo can be in the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
The servo could be back here.
Yeah.
Because this piece is going to
That
come
might-
off,
Yeah.
and then the cowling, the whole piece is going to come
You
off.
could always, if you want to, lay the servo on its side rather than having it vertical.
The servo,
You have so many options.
exactly. You got a lot of choice.
If you use a carbon fiber fuselage, your fuselage walls are going to be so thin.
One of the things Bobby is going to do, he's got, this is Bob Dixon's OS 90. We're going to take the Enya 90 and the Max 90 and run them with the same prop on the same day with the same fuel and get a feeling for which one is the stronger of the two, just for our own reference. We don't plan on using the 90 on the Typhoon, but just for our own reference, and as a reference that it would be the biggest physical engine, so that we want to make the cowl big enough that everything sits inside. And I think that's going to be I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. Behringer's plane now, you've seen that, and have you got the plans to the other one too? The other one
We'll
is,
have to look at that one.
yeah,
So this is the one I think his son flies.
yes.
Now look at these fuselage cross section. Look at the.
So this is what Joe did. Joe took and made a tank right off the plans, but enlarged it to 5 ounces.
Okay.
But there might be, Brian's got it in his plane now. We haven't tested that tank yet. That'll be a very interesting test once we see that. With Sergio down at the field, it was totally unflyable. And he had a couple of suggestions, things that I ran by him that would be possible. Now, one of the things I'm going to try to do, since we're using this controller as our fine tuning and this as our throttle up, throttle down, one of the things I'm going to try to do today, holding this in your hand while you're flying becomes, like a little complex. But what I want to do, I want to mount this, which is the sending unit. I want to mount this in a hat just for a test to see if that's going to be practical. And I want to thank all the people that have been sending me samples of solder and things teaching me how to solder. I am getting better, by the way. So what the first thing I want to do today is I want to make two things. I want to make a little mount for this in a hat, in the brim of a hat, and some kind of an attachment that I can hook this on my belt. And then this will automatically aim at the plane no matter where I move my head. And then I'll still have my controller mounted somewhere on my belt. And I'll also have, in other words, in level flight I can set the lap speed I want, and then I can go up a little, down a little. I can just give it bursts of power. It'll always return to this setting. So I want to utilize this little part of the controller, and it's possible I could evolve this even to where the batteries could be a separate piece, since we can take them right off. One of the things that would do, make this lighter so this is on your belt. It doesn't feel like, you're carrying around a something heavy anyway. Now Sergio also had another idea, and he's going to try to make me this. And this is a controller that has no on-off switch. It would have a up, down, more throttle, less throttle. Only 2 buttons would be the only controllers on the whole thing. Now normally the early models of these had 3 of these little transmitters. This one has one, well, I don't know, more anyway. This thing was working across the length of the whole parking lot the day we met with Sergio, which is about 400 feet. So far we're having a lot of fun. Sergio is an electric flyer. We're going to try to get down and watch him fly at one of his local meets or wanted a little, maybe a trip to his shop, and believe it or not, his wife collects dolls, so I think we have the beginning of a good relationship here. Anyway, let me pull this apart and see what goes on inside here. See, this is my first trip into electronic wizardry, and so if it doesn't work out, I'll be making a trip to Sergio's to get it straightened out. When I open up the case, and I've asked Sergio about this, all I really need to do here is make an extension, and be careful I don't bust up these wires, make an extension for the red and black wire, because then this would mount, this I could mount in my shirt pocket, on my shirt somewhere, and again, we're going to try a lot of systems. This is why, even if we can sneak 1 or 2 more test sessions in before the winter gets here, even doing them in the winter, I can run this, when there's snow on the ground, but this is a key part of what I'm trying to develop, is to get this system that it's, and with Jim Young's handle, maybe with that controller and this aimer, we don't know yet where this is going, but there's not a lot inside the box, but I want to really be careful, because again, I'm not, not a totally proficient would not be the right word. But it comes apart real easy, and it's pretty self-explanatory what things are.
It stretches on forever, like an ocean of time. For me, it was lying on my back at Boy Scout camp, watching.
Give you a look at what this looks like, and this is the part Jimmy made. I have a feeling though Sergio's eventually going to come up with, or I'm going to come up with a smaller box, probably from a computer game or something, that we can put all these, actually the guts in. But for right now, we just need to put an extension on this. Okay, the next thing is just to make 2 extension wires for this. The length of, I guess, about 3 feet is about right, maybe a little more. Wait till you see what a great solderer I've become. I'll show you how intense I went out and practiced soldering for a whole night. I got so mad. Jimmy really was helpful the other night, giving me lessons. Now, if you only knew what a pain I had the first time doing this. I now have the correct flux, the correct solder. And what happens is, now I'll put a shrink over this too. Like anything in life, when somebody gives you a heads up, it's easy, relatively easy anyway. And I'm tinning both sides first, and then just heating them. One of the tricks I found wasn't, I didn't find it, Jimmy turned me onto it, is the rosin core, the flux, using a little bit extra flux. And I kept one gun that I did this already, just for rosin core solder, so I don't have the Stay Bright rosin core. Of course I have several guns, so this one will just be for all the electronic stuff. Well, after fooling around long enough, what I tried to do originally is mount this right to the hat. The problem is then I don't have any variants. So what I did, I made little brackets out of some thin copper so that I could fine-tune this, because this, if you look at the angle you wear a hat at, you might want to face that down or up. Again, this has a lot of range, but I'd still like to be able to fine-tune it. Now, I just can't wait to hear the jokes when people start calling me Flash Gordon and stuff like that. But anyway, this is just a test like everything we're doing here. I ran the wire inside the hat, down to a shrink tube and a zip tie, and then left enough. There's probably more than enough wire. With one of the Dean's connectors, the opposite type. Did some really high quality soldering work. I'm sure everybody would be impressed. Actually, I am learning. Well, I am learning. Let's leave it at that. Anyway, so that's the next part. Now I need to put the opposite Dean's connector somewhere on the transmitter, and that's the next step. Next thing I need to do, I have all the wiring laid out, and I purposely made one female, one male, so I wouldn't have a tendency, say, to plug the battery into the wrong connector. Oops. Now what I want to do now, I want to make a belt mount. I want to mount this on my belt. And I want to have it totally variable so I can change this as an example. If the belt goes up here, that I can go fast, slow, or I could in essence reverse it. Or I could use up and down motion. That's yet to be decided, so I want to make it as variable as possible. And I'll start with a piece of this ordinary old 1/8" light ply. The thing I thought of was I could put zip ties through here and then I can adjust this. See, because every person's going to have a different, they're going to want it in the front, the back. I can use 1, 2, or 3 zip ties, and I don't want it to do this at the same time either. So by threading a belt right through there, that'll be one. Well, see, the thing is, I want to do this very easily and quickly and conveniently so I can get out there and test it. One of the objectives I have is I want to be able to take this apart on a moment's notice, so I made a little box, and I'm thinking I'll just put a zip tie right over the top of this. That'll hold that. I don't want it to be moving around. And I need to make some kind of a similar thing for the battery, and I'll be all set here. I'm trying to figure out how I can, again, snap. I want everything to come apart with zip ties. I don't want to have any, make it as easy to replace parts as possible. This is where this is where it gets tricky, trying to figure out how to locate things. Something like that might work. This part really takes a lot more time than I thought.
Flashes in front of your eyes the second before you die. First of all, that 1 second isn't a second at all. And then I remember to relax.
I just need to put a little spot in the bottom here.
Hold on to it. And then it flows through me like rain. And I can't feel anything but gratitude.
It looks like this is going to be an easy way that I can just plug the parts right in and attach it to my belt and just have zip ties holding things in. But for the maintenance, until I get a final thing here, now maybe ultimately I want to make this smaller, or I want to put who knows what. You never really know this, and it's always good to make a test as quickly and cheaply as possible. Maybe we can get somebody to machine this out of titanium or something, but in the meantime, a $2 piece of plywood looks like it'll work just fine. This is what I finally came up with, the loops. Let's see if I can get this closer. So these are infinitely adjustable. I can move this back forward. That was one criteria. I feel like I have a gun here. Although I can see if I make another one of these, and I probably will make several, the batteries will go on the side because it's the length that's a problem. While the height, the batteries actually could go on the side. Now the other part of it, the hat, and again we're going to try to get out there and test this. Well, at least go out in the driveway once Mike gets here so I can test it just by plugging this in. In the best of all worlds, I could have this inside my shirt where it wouldn't be a problem. See, none of this looks like it's going to be, and this is infinitely now adjustable. I have infinite level flight trim and higher and lower speed, so, but I can see already the advantage to this would be twofold, would be to have it wider this way, or actually put the batteries inside. I never even thought of that. Anyway, we'll be making more of these just to get out to the field and test this once. And I thought this was going to be a 5-minute job. You know what? Nothing's a 5-minute job in the world of stunt. And I'm sure I'm going to get the razzle-dazzle from all the guys with the, you look like, you know, a robot or something. But you know what? I don't care. See, this is the nice thing about being windy. I don't care. If they say, doesn't, this I just think is going to be, well, we're going to have to see. And I was real happy to see that one of the things we're working on is getting a throttle for a jet. I'm glad to see Dubjet is interested in helping us, and George Aldrich both. But without this unit, and this would not impede your flying at all. In fact, we could shorten up the wires. I made this plenty long so other people could do a test flight with it. We could just take off the belt, take off the hat. Anyway, we're going to find out more I can't wait to try this now.
And it's too much. My heart fills up like a balloon that's about to burst.
Right, and this part of the unit just worked just as good as you can possibly expect. And this, because this is all new, the problem is I don't have anybody to call. Say, hey, you know, how does this work? You know, well, but now we do have an advantage when people need some help. And I assume there'll be other people that want to try this or whatever. It seems like Ted Hendricks is one of them, too. Whether it's on a scale ship or, say, Walt Brownell with those beautiful scale ships wants to do away with the system or try a new system, what this totally does, it eliminates having to have those insulated lines, which can be, we've heard it can be a handicap. We haven't tested it yet because we don't have the insulated lines. One of the things that I did is I purposely put insulators and zip ties around. I sanded down all these zip ties for the simple reason I want to chew myself up. Now, another thing is, you know, you're not going to wear this all day long. You're going to put this on. I thought possibly you could make some kind of thing where you could just snap it on your belt. That might be a little advantage. But I can see the biggest advantage here is going to be to take this at some future time when we make another one of these, assuming that we're happy with this. And we'll make this go out on the side here. It won't even be a big deal to do that, just lengthen wires and stuff. But I guess for a prototype unit, and I want to show this to Sergio, see what he says, and Jim Young with the handle. Now, with this, if I can get this handle, the handle to have this adjustment, these two adjustments in Jim Young's handle, where I can set my level lap speed, whether it's a jet on a pipe or a four-stroke, I can set level lap speed. Square 8, I want to go a little faster. Whoa, that overhead 8, let it roll. Well, and having bursts of speed or bursts of brake, you're going to see how often, you know, first off, we're going to find out just, I have done some hourglasses that were scary. When it comes out, it just turns so slow you can see the plane actually turn. If you've ever flown a plane with a really, really rich run where the laps are 7, if you've tried to do loops right about here, you just give it a little get. Well, we're at the bottom of this. And since we're the first ones across, well, one of the first ones across the pond, one of the things is we don't even know exactly how many things we can do with this, but I know for sure there's already 6 or 7 of them. And the total weight that this has added to the airplane, when I've weighed the plane before and after, is just a little over an ounce, because I have an ounce that I can put, just under an ounce. I can take the tip weight out, put the ounce in the outboard tip. I still need to put the receiver in the inboard tip, but I think this is going to work even without the receiver moved. And I want to test that before I go to the next level of moving it around in the plane, because I want to see how significant it is that I can aim this with the hat. Anyway, there's nothing here that's a lot of money. Everything it takes to do this, everything, is under $100, including the unit, the batteries, and all the wires and clips and things. I think you can come out of the thing that you can actually retrofit a scale or a stunt ship, probably for 1 or 2 days of work, and possibly around $100. You wanted to just test this yourself or have some fun, I'm thinking of another thing you could possibly do, is just take a profile, mount the receiver, you could mount the servo on the outside of the plane, run one of those nylon push rods up there. Just some thoughts that I've been thinking about. I certainly wouldn't discount the possibility that as soon as we get a carburetor from Dubjet, this is one of the nice things, we can retrofit a carburetor right into the engine, and we get to see if this is going to work with one of our tuned pipes. Again, we got a lot of things left to do. We're really at the bottom, working our way from the bottom up here, and it's so much fun so far. I'll tell you, this is just one of the things I think about. Just something I think about, those takeoffs and landings. And even that, on the first day out, we were just having fun with takeoffs and landings. And the thing I can tell right away is you better make the plane with a little bit more prop clearance, because on the first flight we broke the prop. Now that's how you learn. Food for thought before we get busy with the normal day's work. Even just think of this as just an accessory. And I don't know. And this plane is about, this is a Ron Burns plane, one of the most the most scale planes I've ever seen fly a stunt plane. This is certainly in the league with Al Rabe's planes, but just think of the added having a throttle control, taxiing around on the gear. This is just one of the things I think about it over and over again. I've been also thinking on a future plane I'm going to have an inboard removable tip that I can mount that unit out there, run the wires through the wing. Hey, one idea leads to another, and that's what's fun about developing new things that haven't been tried yet. And that's what'll be fun to see, is where this is going to go to the next level, the level after that. I'm already thinking about that Jim Young handle and how we can incorporate that, because we have so many choices. Again, we have 3 channels. We can run the handle as a separate channel, but we don't have this self-centering that when we have the channel with the joystick. And I don't know in electronic terms what that amounts to. We also have the possibility coming real soon, Sergio's working on it now, of a 2-button handle, possibly having it right at the thumb. There's a lot coming for me. And when you find something this challenging, I repeat it over and over again, but I ought to write it down and put it on my desk or something. You don't go to the moon because it's easy. You go to the moon because it's hard. I love that saying. Anyway, back to the shop. Now, after taking it out in the back, freezing to death here, and trying, it's just too awkward. So what I'm going to do is, using a similar technique, I'm going to try to make the unit shorter in terms of getting it closer up to my belt. Really too cold to fly today anyway. And what I did today, it's basically the same thing. I did it off camera just to save time. I made up a little box. The batteries mount in the side here in a little cavity. And I think this is going to be a little more comfortable. Again, it was the length that was wrong, and it doesn't take long. You go outside for 5 minutes, you can tell it's going to be clumsy. It's like carrying a rifle on your shoulder, on your hip, instead of a handgun. Again, this is one of the things we're going to learn as we go, is just how small and compact. We don't really need this whole controller. That's the biggest part of this. One of the advantages of having this kind of thing, again, there's no point making a whole video out of making a box, because we don't know where this is going, and when I get the final control, there's just too many possibilities right now. But that first one was definitely on the clumsy side. Now what I have here, just to show this, some dust in there. Let's see if I can just drop the battery. Whoa! Got the whole unit here. The battery drops in. I put some sponges in there. This unit mounts up here. What I do, I just take a piece of sponge, and Peeps conveniently just flew away with my piece of sponge. I have one long screw that holds that right on. I made sure I didn't drill through the electronics. Now this, once that's together, it has some belt loops on the back. Batteries are self-contained, and I'll put some kind of little zip tie to hold that wire so we don't lose the connector. One of the things probably would be real worthwhile is to get a battery-powered soldering iron, so if one of these connectors breaks at the field, you don't lose the whole day. Anyway, I'll put a finish on this today. We're just wasting a terrible winter day anyway. You can guess what I'm trying to test. Is I'm going to try looking down at the sensor. I can hear it moving. And I can even look at you to show you the kind of peripheral vision this has. Still moving. Turn the other way. You have a lot of side. Let's see how much. Well, we're bouncing off things up here. Anyway, this unit, you can see there's a lot more. Again, I'm going to find out. I might want this lower. I can make it lower, higher. Shut the plane off here. Shut this unit off. This is basically look at this. I look like Flash Gordon. 2 days I've worked on this. Another little tricky thing, when I had this out testing it, I had the bolts from the 440 nuts, the nuts bright and shiny, and when you'd look toward the plane, they'd reflect in your eyes. So I painted them dark black. Is there light black or just dark black? Anyway, black. Anyway, so we're back having our system. What's really sad is the weather is gone. It's just terrible out there. So already, the original Sergio system, and with Sergio's advice and help, Jim Damerel's advice and help, and everybody that's been on board, we've now eliminated one of the possible inconveniences of this, and it's pretty obvious to me. Another thing you could do, I'm just thinking of something you could do here. I'll bet you could mount this in your pocket like a pen mount. Those things people used to put when they were office workers so your pens didn't stain your shirts. We might try making up something. See, now that we have all these parts, I can just take this right off the hat. Like I said, I can just answer the phone here. Now that we're done with that, basically, even a small improvement like this, look at the difference in size. See, and you don't realize, well, we don't need this anymore. You don't realize every time you open up a door to something new, it opens up more possibilities. Another possibility, Sergio was going to try to find me, and they make them for RC games and things, a joystick with a self-centering switch. That's about, he said they're about the size of a pack of cigarettes, because I don't need the transmitting light, and the electronics that go in here are very tiny. Actually, the battery pack is more than the big piece, but I would say for today, we're ready. Each time we do this, we're moving up to another level, and each time it's getting to be just a little more practical. And this is information when people, if anybody really wants to copy this, unless I know how it's going to work, it's really hard for me to help them. Little break today. A couple little things came in from Warren Walker. One of the things he always sends me, these great I gotta tell you, Warren. These are great. Hey! He vacuum sealed them. Just want to make sure. Anyway, look what he does. He sends one, Karen only, hands off. Look at this. Look at this. I'm offended. I guess Karen gets the big jar, I get the little jar. These are from Warren. I gotta tell you, these are homemade pickles. You've got Karen totally addicted to these things, Warren. They're great. They also sent me a copy of Aviation Modeler International. And believe me when I tell you, every magazine I ever have, I learn something from. I do a lot of reading. A lot of people don't realize how literate I am. I do a lot of reading. Mostly modeling, though. Anyway, there's always good tips. This magazine, for instance, anybody... Look at this, loaded with 4-strokes. I noticed there's some articles about batteries and stuff in here. Kits, look at this kit. Look at this. Look at this kit, unbelievable. Now because I need to learn a lot about a lot of different subjects regarding electricity, soldering, I need to learn a lot. I have to learn a lot about life itself. Anyway, a lot of cool stuff in here. I'm going to be looking this over. We'll see if we can learn something. And I appreciate everybody that sends me magazines, believe me. And I always pass them along. I don't hoard them and start some kind of bogus library. By the way, this is one of the events we videotape this every year, the RC Combat. What a great event. A lot of good stuff. Every time I look at this. Obviously it's a magazine from England. If anybody's interested, here's the address. This is a neat little product Warren Walker found. I think he found it at McMaster Car. But it's all different size dots made out of masking tape. Now, of the things, so you can picture what these would be useful for. You take one off and you're going to make, let's see if I got anything like a real fingernail here. Anyway, and you want to make a curve like so. It's always hard to get, let's see if we can just do a real quick one here, because these really are useful. Now, Warren has told me about these, that they work well. And then all you need to do when you want to get all your curves the same, I think you can pretty much figure out the rest of this. The curve part is already done. I'm going to show you another trick too, an old body shop trick here. Because it's where the curves are that it's difficult. Look at this, the tape is not sticking to this paper. But that would just be one scenario. Now the other scenario is when you really want to be well, I didn't do it right. First of all, I have a dull blade anyway, so. But I think you can figure out. You really don't even need lessons, but you'd get every one would have a real nice radius. And they apparently they come. I'll find out if they come from McMaster Car. If all different sizes, some real big ones. Anyway, Warren, we will keep these on tap. I can picture if you could get them even smaller than this, you might be able to use them for rivet heads or something. Retro sets, tapo sets. But anyway, that's one of the things. Definitely these are usable. Anyway, we'll run through these pictures from Warren, and this is, needless to say, Warren is going to be trying to make us up a let's call it a tucked-in rear exhaust Sato 72 header. We'll see if that's going to be practical in the near future. But for the meantime, let's go through these pictures. These are from Warren Walker. This is his Chipmunk. Apparently at one of the contests they have a dome, kind of a Dave Cook thing to show what the stunt pattern should look like. Must be a stunt clinic of some. Yeah, I get that's Keith Trussell giving lessons. An excellent judge, an excellent flyer. Winner of the precision scale at the last Nats. It's always great when somebody with a good background in judging can spread the good word, so we can keep this event going. It's always hard to get judge volunteers. So hard because it's such a thankless job. Chipmunk ready for the Brodak clear. Warren's also making a Pathfinder. Is Miss Jameson, an RSM kit. Warren's Brodak Cardinal. Bottom of the Chipmunk. Now this, I guess, is this is supposed to be Wendy's private retreat and flying field. A picture of Warren and Sophie. Look at the scenery back there. Mamma mia. Some of the photos of Warren installing the Magnum, some motor I loaned him, and just today he told me he's ready to fly it, so he's making some good progress here. Fitting in the 4-stroke, some building pictures. Now, what's cool is Warren loves Peeps, and he sent me a picture of his parrot. One time when I was talking to Warren on the phone, I could hear the bird in the background. He got an African gray. Hey, that's cool. Warren, we need more pictures of the bird. This is Warren's business, Walker Custom Sheet Metal and Sato Header Company. Some of the equipment in the shop. Now Warren, with all this equipment, you got to be able to make me a custom header. Some of the other, I love to look at people's equipment. Boy, when we had the machine shop, this is like the high point of my day. Hole punchers. Anybody that's never worked in a machine shop area, there's something about machinery and equipment that some iron workers, anybody doesn't know what an iron worker is, it bends, it cuts, it punches holes, it does about 90 different things. There's welding and Sato 72 header shop. So I think you get the picture. Warren, with all this equipment, we're going to put you in the header business. Anyway, one last picture of the old chipmunk. And the pickle. I'd like to see the pickle factory in the next... We need to see that pickle factory, Warren. That's the hot tip. Seriously. I appreciate sharing the photos. I'll send a couple of these off to Stunt News. The factory looks great. Absolutely awesome. Warren, we're going to go eat some pickles and practice burping. This is the kind of miserable week it's been, so it isn't raining, it's freezing. So we're going to try to put Mike's tail together today. One of the things we've had extremely good luck with, several people have built right off the Miss Ashley plans, the tail. Now that has been the lightest, straightest, easiest to make tail of all the tails I've ever made, that's for sure. So one of the things we're going to try with Mike's plane, and Mike already has the wing framed out from last year. I think he covered it with tissues. We're going to try using the tail built exactly off the Miss Ashley plans, except for the fact they'll make the tips curved so that they match a cardinal. But the same shape and the same area. Previous to this, Mike had made up the ribs, and we made up the molded, what amounts to be the molded leading edge. And we still have the video of making the original tail, so we're not going to belabor it too much, but basically, Mike, you can lay out, the first thing is we want to get some C-grain sheeting. First step is going to be to get that sheeting made up and cut the shape. Let's go through the wood first.
It's raining.
What Mike's doing is going through 100 sheets of Contest Sig Balsa. We're taking out the C-grain. Just pull out the C-grain. How'd you get, 2 C-grains already? 2. Okay. We're making up a tail. Real important to have. When you do the Miss Ashley type of tail, having the flat parts all C-grain, very important. Then when you get all the C-grain, we'll weigh the C-grain and take the lightest pieces of C-grain. Never just take the lightest pieces of A or B grain. Not for this, anyway. All the C-grain that we have, what'd you get, 6 pieces?
Yeah.
Okay, weigh each piece. Remember, C-grain, most important if you're going to do a Miss Ashley type of tail. And typically you can do this once the parts are made up and that molding leading edge is done. This snaps together in a matter of an hour or so. 2 hours the most. And just, you get a good one? Okay, mark each one. You got a pen?
Yeah, I'll get one.
Mark the wood up in the corner so in the future we can go and just go to the pile. This are actually 6 pieces of C-grain. Will be more than enough even to do the elevators. Using that molded piece that we previously made on a triangle right with the trailing edge, we can get the first cut, mark that cut, and then make the other piece. You got enough material on there that if it's a little over, it's not a problem. Part of the reason this tail goes together so nice is because it's that molded leading edge locks all the ribs in. It's sheeted, you don't have any tissuing to do, no sanding the tissue. All of those things, radius and ribs, like you have to do on some kind of tails. Now you could repeat the same thing on the bottom if you need to. But you want to get that first thing, get the 2 cuts accurate. You want to get a nice butt joint because we want to carry that edge down, that leading edge. Okay. Okay, now before you glue it together, you can true both of these edges up over here on a sanding block like that. So bring them over here and get them trued up. It just makes it easier to make the other piece. So if one side is a lot bigger, then just trim it with a razor blade. Because it doesn't matter what length it is. See, the length of this doesn't matter. We could trim them both off if you have to.
Right.
The length doesn't matter. You can actually do it on the sander if you wanted to. That gets the molded leading edges ready to use right there. Next thing is to get the piece of sheeting cut, and you can pretty much trace it. If you leave the leading edge bigger, you can make this shorter. You can shorten or lengthen it by any dimension that you want, but you want to have that joint. The way this tail gets all its benefit is the grain goes tip to tip. There's no center joint, there's no fiberglassing. It's tip to tip, grain in one piece, and when it's sea grain, it stays relatively straight and strong for the whole time you're putting it together. Okay, now you need to get the two pieces. Go get the two molded pieces, and let's see how that looks all in one piece. And you can make one joint at a time. Now you see, because we're making it, this piece is bigger now. We don't care. We just trim, take and trim. I'm going to guess a 1/4 of an inch off of that. This is just a trim thing, because you're going to have more leading edge. Instead of having to put a little piece there, and then this will be too big. All you need to do is shorten that by 1/4 of an inch.
Okay, both sides.
Both sides, take 1/4 of an inch off. I'm going to take 3/8 off, just line that up, make your mark. Take it off both front pieces, because again, we always make the molded pieces oversized. These are always longer than they have to be. If you wanted to, you could trim these to exactly a 1/2 inch. You wouldn't have to do this operation, but what I'm trying to do is get a nice joint so that the two molded pieces and the bottom are one flat. You should have it now. And we're working off glass, so you can just lay a ruler on that, trim it right off. Now see, if you wanted to take another 1/16 off, and I'll just use whatever size balsa you want, just to give you that amount. This way you always get the center joint right too. You're saving time here is now that you know what size that sheet is, assuming both of these are the same length, just trace it out and make another piece. Remember, the key thing is it's sea grain, and the strength goes tip to tip. This worked out so good on the Miss Ashley project. I think Peeps is eating your sanding block.
Everything.
All right, as soon as you have that extra piece, then obviously we're going to make that tack glue it all together. It's easier at this point in time to just transpose all the ribs onto, you only need to do it on one sheet. This is going to be the inside sheet, using a 90-degree triangle. That's all the rib alignments. And then from this point on, next step will be just tack up the leading edges, and you're ready to start laying ribs in. And we're into this, what?
15 minutes?
15 minutes, and you're already putting rib, well, because you made the rib, we're cheating, we made the ribs ahead of time. You liar. But compare this to building some tails, where building a tail is like an all-day project. This is the best way I know of to do it. Now we're putting an extra rib right in the middle. This is not a take-apart plane, just to stiffen up the center. That extra rib is just cheap insurance, because we know you're tough on models.
I have a hard hand.
Heavy hands. Way to get the seam nice is put some tape on it. What we did, we squeezed this and taped one side. Then this side is ready to run a glue seam. Put it under a little bit of pressure and then just press the tape down. This gives you, it's almost like joining sheeting for a wing. Gives you a good chance of getting a nice seam. The same thing down the end here. If you squeeze it together, just put two pieces and then put one piece right down the whole thing. And this becomes the core of our, what now is going to be work. Notice we're working over a piece of Dave Midgley Teflon. If you didn't have Teflon, you could work on wax paper. Just keeps the glue from sticking when you flip it over. Tape off now, and you're ready to push the ribs in. Now the trick is when you put the ribs in, make sure they're straight and make sure they go all the way to the front. In this part of it, this is where you really start to see the benefit of doing it this way. There's no notching, there's no carving, there's no blocks, there's nothing here that would tend to make it a warp in any direction. It's all flat. What I'm suggesting is anybody making a Cardinal kit here, this is probably the way, or a Strega even, in any kit. This is an excellent way to make a tail, and it goes very quickly. We marked with a ruler where what total length is. Now just connect the two dots and shave off that little piece of extra trailing edge. And then double check that both edges are the same. Trimmed, ready to put the ribs in place. And the trick here, a good little tip, sand this with a sanding block and leave the dust on. The dust will help kick off the CA at a nice speed, give you a little working time. Always leave the dust on. The dust will kick the CA. Okay, you ready to start dropping ribs in there? You run the whole seam. Oh, you're so smart. Now you can take a Q-tip if you want to make that pretty inside. So if you happen to crash this and we look at it 10 years from now, I don't want Don Dixon critiquing our woodworking here. Okay, do that and then you're ready to drop ribs in. You could figure out how to put the ribs in, right?
I hope so.
Famous last words. I always like to start in the middle, but it doesn't matter. Start at one end. And it's good to let all the ribs hang out oversized by a 1/16 of an inch too when you trim them, because you're going to trim each one. In other words, when you take one and it's here, let it stick out an extra 1/16 of an inch. Let it go all the way up into the leading edge, and then we'll trim that down on a sanding block all at once. Actually, the ribs will all be in 5-10 minutes. Remember, make sure they go all the way to the front, and what I would do is tack each one in. Just tack it in with one drop of glue, a couple of drops each time. Make sure they're all straight. You want to trim them before, and just leave about a 1/16 of an inch. Otherwise, you gotta take too much off. Oh, you could do it after actually, because we're going to run that on a sanding block. All right, drop the ribs in, baby. This is the part where you really make up speed. Certain parts are disappearing off the table in a regular manner. Hey! Oh, jeez. He's going after you. Ah! He took Mike's Q-tips. It's no fun building model planes.
He's a riot.
Well, I think we ought to convert to alcoholism right now. More fun, better for your health too. All right, knock them in. Okay, now what you could do if you want to press it down on that glass while you do it. Run all the glue seams while it's being pressed down. And it very seldom warps, but you could put a couple of weights on it. Because when you put the top sheet on, you want to have some weight on it. A good way to do it too is put some tape down here. Take the Teflon sheet off so that you're holding it flat, because you want to be holding it flat when you tack on that top piece. You already have the piece cut, you just need to tack it on. Leave the Teflon off. Tape it down right over the plans. You can actually use some of these even to tape it. Just make sure it's flat. Tape the front, tape the back, weights, doesn't matter. And you got the piece already cut from a pattern. Got the both skins joined.
Right.
So what we did, drew up some center lines and just glued it right down in place. And now the next step is get a nice big number 26 blade and trim that off. But that's about the easiest, quickest, straightest tail I think you're going to make ever. Just leave it about a 1/16 oversize, and then you can either use a plane or whatever. Don't try to cut it right up even, or you won't get, because you're on an angle going away from it, so you don't want to make it undersized. Now just leave the last little bit on there and do the last little bit with a sanding block. It goes together pretty quick, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And the last thing, you can trim everything off with the last rib, because you're going to make your little blocks to match the wingtips. You know, we'll put a little curve in them.
Yes.
Doing that kind of a tail, just make the little block 3/4 of an inch or an inch. In this case, this guy had little kind of semi-scale tips. The tips just go along for the right anyway. All right, sight it down the trailing edge. Is it straight down the trailing edge? You better leave that for me. My Typhoon needs a tail. But isn't that nice how that goes together?
That's it.
That is beautiful. Now, basically, you want to start laying out the parts for the elevators, or how much time you got? I mean, you got to be able to make these tails in an hour. If it takes more than 2 hours, I mean, you may as well.
And it's over.
Yeah. You could lay out your elevator parts, but we'll just do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's definitely a Miss Ashley real nice tail. I like that. You can take it home, do all the fine sanding on it, and you're done. Make the little wingtips. Don't make them too big, though. Just make them, you know, try to mimic that curve. Now, the elevators are going to be straight, so every rib is the same.
Right.
That is definitely a nice. Now, in today's mail from Bruce Hunt, check this out. And as our collection grows, Typhoon, Hawker Typhoon. Well, I'll tell you, that is one beautiful airplane. Anyway, just a quick look at this, and it's got loads of paint jobs that appeal to me. This is one I particularly like. Lots of real nice photos. Most important of all, that big chin scoop. Cockpit orientation details. I'll tell you, when you have a book, see how large the wheels are relative to the plane? That's another thing. They'll make taxiing and the like really possible. It's a picture I really like. This one with a pink spinner, that's unusual. Again, a lot of different choices of camo, spinner, coloration. Bruce, I really appreciate the book. And by the way, I looked up in the AMA magazine, I'll put a little preview of this, we don't have it yet. There's a video for sale from, I'm trying to look, if you look in the AMA magazine, you'll see it on the Spruce Goose, and a man that made a model of the Spruce Goose and died before he completed it. And then his modeling club finished it, and 2 years after his death it flew. Well, we ordered that video today. I'm always interested in people that are totally dedicated to the world of modeling. By the way, this is this is probably the best book I have. And of all the things that have come out of this, now imagine old Matt Newman, you'd fry his goose here, do a German Typhoon. Poor Matt Newman. Oh no, I'm the Stuka man. Anyway, this is a great book. And we're going to be using this. Believe me. Remember, all the prototypes, all the early ones, were painted yellow on it. We haven't discounted that as a possibility either. These are the early ones with the double exhaust. Remember, that was an H engine. Anyway, another really nice book for our collection. Bruce, I want to thank you very much for this. This is really good. And when it comes time to doing inking and detailing and making up cowl molds and the like, we'll be referring back to this. Look at the detail on this. What I really like is how big the wheels are relative to the aeroplane. It really makes for some nice taxis, landings. Okay, Mike Costello is here with his wing and flaps. How old is this wing now, Mike?
I've been building it
Since dinosaurs. This is Jurassic wing here or something.
from before I moved, which is 3 years ago.
Now I'm trying to figure out what Mike did, because what he did, we made a little sketch how he built these flaps,
I'll
and
tell you how I
they have a twist in them.
I took a 3/8 inch rod and a 1/4 inch rod, and I put the raw material between it, and then I sanded this much off. Then I flipped it over on the table.
But already here, there's a problem. Before you even flip it, because you've got, the one side is bigger than, if these are constant chord, this would be perfect. But as they taper, that side just tapers down. And that's what's happened to these flaps. And they're beautiful sea grain. I mean, I wouldn't throw this wood away. I would find something to make it out of it. Now, this is not as objectionable if you made two flaps that both droop down on a tip, which is what this is. It's nowhere near as bad as if one is up and one is down. If one is up and one is down, that's what you got to determine. Which one of these is the up one and which one is the down one?
So, well,
Because if they're both up, it's, you know, you might even risk steaming them or something. But
there's still more, I didn't go all the way, so there's more material I could sand off of these. But this is the outboard flap. It's got a little more area on it.
try to determine if this one is coming down or that one is going up.
So these go like this.
Okay.
So, let's see. This one here.
Are they opposite or are they the same?
I can't see the warp that you're seeing in that one.
Make a point. On a flap like this, where it's constant chord, or an elevator, which is what Mike is going to be, Kajeski's in, when the elevator is the same thickness, root and tip, you can put rods down and just carve away. What happens as you put this angle in, the first cut you make puts an angle in it. Then as you flip it over, the angle is not, you're not working off a flat surface again. And the more taper there is, the bigger it is at the root and the smaller at the tip. I mean, go figure out if it's drooping 1/8 of an inch here, and over here it's only 1 inch, it's 3 to 1 that it's just drooping down.
Here's the way to look at it. If we hold this down flat.
Right. What do you got? Okay, now flip it over and do it the other way. Well, because you got the warp, you see, it's only one way.
It's actually, they're nearly equal, but I think there's a little bit more travel this way than this way. Okay, that being the case.
What you want to really just check for, Mike, is that they're not opposite. If they're both the same, it's a whole lot better.
They're both the same.
Okay, so you're just going to have to, you know what, when you put the tail horn, put a lot of slop in the tail horn. That'll somehow, hopefully, equalize that. This works whether it's an elevator or a flap. This is the first cut. It's a really significant thing here for people, because I know they publish things like this, but they're wrong. This is 3/8.
Well, the information's out there.
Well, this is old technology.
Yeah.
See what's already happened, assuming this is a flat surface, you've already got an angle carved in. Now when you flip it over and using this as the reference, you're not carving in the same amount. You're carving a 1/4 away here and a half this way. It's not the same. I don't know. Well, the living proof is that the flaps have got a twist, but if they're both the same,
They're pretty
it's still better.
This table's perfectly flat, right?
Yeah, it's really flat.
Not flat?
Yeah, flat is the top of your head. Now, when you flip it over, it should be the same the other way. The only other scenario is if we're wrong here, and nobody says we're not right or wrong all the time.
Well, it's pretty close.
See what's happened. You've cut away 1/4 of an inch of material, 1/8 of an inch. But when you turn it over, you're not taking a 1/4 of an inch off the other side. That's the problem.
Wow.
I don't know.
I don't think...
I'll leave this to the engineers among us, but if it was up to me, I'd be making a new set of flaps. I don't know who's right or wrong here. Now, good tip Mike had, and I never thought of this, but this is a great tip. Took tracing paper.
Yeah.
Because he needed to figure out the centerpiece.
Actually, this was a bigger piece of paper. It's a full-size sheet of
Okay.
paper, okay? And then
You can trace
there's a lot
right
of
through.
odd angles and stuff.
Right. What Mike did, he built the wing in 2 halves, and about a year ago we joined this. I don't even
Yeah, a
remember.
long time ago.
But now you need to figure out the shape of that sheet.
Yeah,
You need to
so
make a template.
I put this over top.
That's a good idea.
And rubbed it with the side of a pencil.
Right.
You can see the mark here that's left there. And all these marks, and
Another thing you could do is just take chalk and put it on the edge, and it'll imprint right into the paper too.
that might work too, but this worked great.
You know, it worked great even better if you had it as a sheet of Mylar, nice and stiff.
Yeah,
It
Mylar's
won't wrinkle.
stiffer, yeah.
Yeah, if you had a piece of the drafting Mylar.
But this got me close, and I cut it exact
Right.
on these edges and oversized over here. And the
Right.
same with the other piece.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
And then, once I was satisfied with the fits here and here, and then this was a little oversized, it was easy to sand the center.
Right, just keep taking out the
Where-
high spot, just like you're laying in a piece of sheetrock.
So now, all these little hitches, and it just fits.
This is a real important thing, is never bring, this corner is then the stress riser. By putting that little piece of sheet, or even in my case, I put it out a couple of ribs, right here, that relieves the stress riser in my book.
So that
You
works.
know, I'm gonna, after you finish the plane and you're all done, and then you think, I wish I could get back in there and do that.
Yeah.
These flaps still mystify me. They're such a nice
Maybe I
piece
should
of
make a
wood.
new set of flaps.
No.
They're so light.
They're light
Nice
and
quarter
everything.
grain.
But that idea of when
I'll
you
never tell you where I got that balsa.
don't. It's mystifying. I don't know. Now it would work if you used. I'm trying to figure. If this is 3/8 and this was half of the amount. Yeah, you know how this would work? If you did it in halves.
Which halves? I did it in halves. I did a quarter. I took an 1/8 inch off the first pass, and the 1/8 inch off after I flipped it the second pass.
So you have a taper on both sides.
Yeah.
But the first thing is when you take the first. Here's my question: when you take the first cut and you lay this back on the other side, it's already got a twist in it. Oh, I see. Now what's wrong?
Is what, this angle?
Yeah.
Which is easy to take.
Shows you why I'm not an engineer. The plane would go off.
Which that comes out easy, and it's not critical anyway.
Yeah, this angle. Okay. So that is what's happening. You could just straighten this angle out.
That's coming off anyway.
But Paul Walker, your job at Boeing is not in jeopardy. Trust me. Here at Comedy Building Central. Anyway, that looks like a nice wing.
Well, I don't know. This was an old video of yours that I followed.
I don't think you followed it that closely. I think you were watching one of those porn videos at the
some
time.
of the new videos.
Well, did you ever hear about buying them?
No,
Good. No, forget it. That's where we draw the line.
Question.
And you notice there's no lunch? He comes over here with a shopping bag of parts and no
That can
lunch.
take a few minutes.
We call for a pizza, hey. With deep pockets like you and I have, we can order 2 pizzas. Karen will die. Anyway, I think you're going on the right track. This is a funny thing now. I notice Mike has top inboard because we're just recalling a time, and of course we all go back to the days of Jimmy Casale. And Jimmy Casale showed up at the field one day with the tip weight box on the top of the wing and swore he did it that way on purpose. Of course he didn't.
Well, that's like me putting my needle valve hole.
On a ballerina. Oh, man. Unbelievable. But that is, whenever I see stuff like this outboard top, I know this guy's already done that. Anyway, we've solved the problem of flaps. I think we need to order a pizza big time.
Let's get on the
Pepperoni. Make a Z-bend in a push rod.
Mike did it.
Mike did it? Well, I'm not crazy about Z-bends, but I guess that one is okay.
It ain't going at it. And it's not coming out. It's not going to come out.
The other thing you want to have is a perfectly straight push rod. You don't want to have a bend in the push rod at all. That should be a straight line. Now, a good way, if you don't want to put an arrow shaft on here, is take a 1/4 inch wooden dowel and just wrap some carbon fiber around it. See, because if that has a bend, it's going to want to do this when you're under load.
Well, this should be reinforced then.
You're better off with even an 1/8 inch dowel. What Glenn Merry used to do is just put another piece of wire
Splice a piece of wire on.
right on top, yeah. I mean, if you know, it's a way of getting away without making the arrow shift. Now we need a final dissertation here. We finally figured out exactly what will and will not work. This will work if you're only taking half of the amount, putting it back on a flat table, taking the other half of the amount, and holding that down for the whole time. Sure, we know that. You know what it would have been nice to do, and we just thought of a way to, like a double check, is put a center line on the wood first, on both sides, because this side's not going to change.
Right.
It's only this side, so you really only have to center line the trailing edge. There's President Centerline calling me back. He shows the flaps with all the ribs and stuff.
Yeah, he makes it out of a...
You're a coward. Build him that one. Yeah, it takes a lot of time, I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Nice thick airfoil, though. Boy, that's a good airfoil. You make the tail, or is the guy
I'm gonna
built up?
I'm gonna make a built-up tail, just like the one
You made...
over there.
Oh, you want to see Mike's tail? Mike's got his tail. Mike did this yesterday in about, I don't know, a couple hours. Tell me you could make a straighter. Now look how straight that is.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's right off the
it's
plans.
light.
Oh, it's light. You know, you could take that and just tell Mike Peeps, you know, I might have put it in his cage or something. I was going to put it in Peeps'
Peeps
cage.
flew away with it. It was so light, Peeps flew away with it.
How heavy you think that
He
tail
flew
is?
it right into the window of my car.
Tell Mike to make you one. Mike's in business to make money. Give him a pizza pie. That's a nice tail. This way of making a tail, you know, it's molded in the front. Look at how the edges molded and
Yeah,
everything.
that's nice. You got to mold the front.
And it's, the thing is, the grain is going in one direction, so it's rigid. Making a tail like this with all these cutouts and you know how long it takes to get the silk span? This will make you crazy. You'll be out of your mind by the time you get all those little ribs and angles.
He's got it all notched.
There's no silk span on a tail, except what you're using for the finish.
Right.
That's you know, like for all the guys that are building Cardinal kits, that's how they should be building them,
You
just
got,
like that.
what, unidirectional carbon in here?
Nothing. You don't need anything.
There's no carbon in there? I see
You
black
don't.
in it.
Nah, that's glue. You don't need it because the grain is see, when you have a normal tail, the grain is coming at an angle, and all the stress is down the middle. This is nice, just the way it should be. That's the same exact tail that's on Miss Ashley. And remember that green Cardinal I had that had the flat tail? Mm-hmm. The one we gave to Datavio? Exactly the same tail.
The Cardinal Sin?
Cardinal Sin, yeah. Datavio Sin. What a good name for Datavio. Where is that pizza? Boy, this is the worst pizza delivery on the planet. One thing I got to give you credit for, Mike. Political pull with the pizza department. You don't think they have me down on a first name basis here, do you? Look at it. They don't even put my name. They just put...
For the benefit of the viewers,
How long did it take to get this
doorbell
pie?
rang an instant after you turned the camera
Look
off
at that.
last time.
Now, come on.
So when I go all the way down here,
And don't do a jackabone and put the horn on a 50-degree angle.
no.
Man, he must have been drunk when he did
cranks
that.
like that, the horn's
Right.
90 degrees.
Right, 90 degrees.
Okay, so now when I deflect all the way down here, it wants to go down, and there's tension here. So what am I gonna do here?
Being pressed into service at the last minute, he comes over to work on his tail. They got him installing control horns.
That's all right.
That's my.
All right, this is